Okay, we're going to have a very brief prayers. We're awkward, but I just wanted to begin by saying that one of the factors that has been evident to us since Tracy passed away is the importance of community. And we're so fortunate to have this Dharma community because it's specifically targeting a practice or practices that are meant to increase our happiness and the happiness of those around us, and decrease the suffering of ourselves and those around us. And those around us is the community. So almost by definition, this Mahayana path that our tradition is part of, is by definition a path that acknowledges community. And I don't know if you've had a chance to visit our website, specifically the little page that's about the developing plans for the celebration of life that we'll host here for Tracy on August 9th. And the thing about that was the photos. I put a little slideshow going through the photos since we moved to this location in 2017, and it almost was as if Tracy was never not here. Every event and every teacher, there's photos of her, painting with, it was either a chainsaw or a what do you call those things?
Oh, a jackhammer.
Jackhammer.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm seeing Lee, and one of the photos there was two of the times that Venerable Robina came. We had sort of this pre-event group because it was more people than usual, and Venerable Robina was staying here or nearby, and we had a lot to do. So the community, the sense of community, and then after the storm, Lee, again, you're here, and so beautifully organized a day where we had about 15 people came from around various places in Texas to clear the ridiculous number of trees that had fallen over in major branches. So community is embedded in the spirit of this path, because how can you be a bodhisattva, which is, of course, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of other beings, if there aren't other beings? So just wanted to say in a general way that for myself anyway, it's Tracy's passing away has really brought forth in my thoughts and my thinking about the importance of community, and the community, all the communities that we're all part of, including this community. Hi, Steve. It's nice to see you wherever you are. Okay, so that being said, we're just going to do a very simple introductory prayers, and we're just going to take refuge and generate bodhicitta with our standard Sangye Chodam mantra for prayer. Sangye Chodam Soki Choknam La Jamju Badu Dagni Kyatsu Chi Dagi Chinyan Yipe Sonam Hi Drola Tenshir Sangye Rupa Sho Sangye Chodam Soki Choknam La Jamju Badu Dagni Kyatsu Chi Dagi Chinyo Yipe Sonam Hi Drola Tenshir Sangye Rupa Sho Sangye Chodam Soki Choknam La Jamju Badu Dagni Kyatsu Chi Dagi Chinyan Gipe Sonam Hi
Trula Pinchir Sangye Drupa Sho.
I meant to remind us all to picture ourselves surrounded by sentient beings that are wonderful teachers, who we all have enjoyed various teachers along the way. So before Christopher takes over this marvelous topic, we just wanted to mention again that a couple things related to Tracy having passed away. Several of you have donated funds in the last couple of weeks, and tomorrow Geshe Nima messaged me yesterday that he's ready to accept some more funds, so I'll be sending those tomorrow, and I'll email you individually, but I just thought the group as a whole, the community, would like to know that we as a community are, through various people, are supporting some of the prayers that are being said for Tracy in India. And as some of you may have heard, I don't recall what we've shared, but there's a clairvoyant yogi monk that Geshe Nima consulted, and apparently Tracy is either already reborn in a fortunate realm, this what they term in our lineage the southern continent, or is on her way to in the waiting room
Of the Southern Continent.
of the southern continent. Anyway, I think anyone who knew Tracy would not be surprised, just given, everything about her. Anyway, then the other thing is that on that Saturday, August 9th, I'll be posting this and it'll go out in an email, but I just wanted to let everybody know that's here in the session that the event is going to be sort of like an open house with a organized presentation of sorts. So we'll go from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and we'll be, as a community, whoever comes can participate in the creation of a meditation area that will have a nature mandala. And I think it will, it'll be something that grows over time, but we'll have the basic infrastructure there for the creation of a nature mandala under this beautiful old oak. And that will be going on for the whole time frame between 10 and 3. At 11 a.m. we'll have an area set up with chairs. Don't know exactly yet because it'll depend on the weather. For some words to be said about Tracy, and especially for people to share whatever thoughts and prayers and recollections that they wish to share with others who know and love Tracy. And so that's happening at 11, and then after that we'll have some kind of refreshments, probably sandwiches or something like that. And we'll have somebody prepare it. We don't want to mess around with potluck, so we'll have it prepared and delivered. So that we can all stay focused on just visiting and participating in the mandala. And sometime in the early part of the afternoon, maybe around 2 o'clock or early mid-afternoon, our friend Danielle, who has a lovely set of Tibetan singing bowls, is going to come and do a sound bath out by the mandala as people are working on that. And she'll probably be out there for about an hour or so.
If you're not familiar with that, what those are like, what Danielle does, the sound baths with the singing bowls, they're pretty wonderful.
Not everybody loves it. I find them
pretty
very
wonderful.
comfortable. They somehow.
Oh, it depends on where it
it
hits you.
depends on everybody's different. But anyways, it seemed like that came up. Susie, who's a mutual friend, and we got in the conversation, and it seemed appropriate. So I think that's all we have. So unless anyone has anything they want to say on this topic, Christopher can begin.
Well, we'll have Tracy's daughter Elizabeth and her boyfriend Isaac, who is very good at video. They're going to be putting together a kind of a video slideshow of all the pictures and things that Elizabeth has.
hopefully.
of Tracy. And that will be going on in several places, I think, in the house.
Well, we'll work that out.
Yeah.
Brian's on the call. He may have some. I'm sure it'll be great, and we have some time to sort that out. But
Just want to say that's another
Yeah.
thing that will be.
yeah, that I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. Well, anyway, enough said.
Okay. So it's been, I think, 6 months since we last visited Nagarjuna's precious Garland. And of course, Nagarjuna is the main proponent of the Prasangika Madhyamika school of tenets, which is the highest wisdom teachings in Tibetan Buddhism. So put on your thinking caps, because we're going to go back to something that when I looked at this was sort of revisiting what we had been talking about. I looked at it and said to myself, "We did this? Did I talk about this?" So see what you all think when we get there. Some of it you will remember, because
So basically, what you're doing is a review.
yeah, this is kind of a review, but I think a lot will not be familiar. Yeah, because I don't think we got that far, but the beginning I think should be familiar. So anyway, so what we were doing back then, and we'll continue to do, as kind of an adjunct to these teachings by Nagarjuna, which are so dense. At the beginning of each of these, we're going to have a presentation of Buddhist psychology, the model of the mind in Buddhism. And I think this will be very helpful for us. It will be helpful in understanding. It goes hand in hand with Nagarjuna's teachings. So these teachings about Buddhist psychology and the model of the mind, they're mainly taken from a book called Unveiling Your Sacred Truth, Book 1 by Khentrul Rinpoche. Also teachings by Alexander Berzin, Venerable Babino, all of our gurus. These teachings are in there. So we're going to start, and you may remember some of this. So we're going to review some of the key points from the past session, which was December 29th, 2024. In Buddhism, the terms mind and consciousness are synonymous. They mean the same thing. According to the Buddhist definition, mind is mere clarity and awareness. Mere clarity and awareness. So we're talking about consciousness when we're talking about awareness. This refers to a non-physical, individual, subjective experience. Nobody is experiencing the exact same thing that each one of us is experiencing. We're all bringing our own mental continuum into that experience, our own habits, our own predispositions. Clarity refers to the arising of cognitive appearances of things, similar to mental holograms. And so now Buddhism is smack dab in the middle of what we would currently call neuroscience. And if you think that Buddhism talking about mental holograms is unusual, I suggest you Google hologram of the brain, or the brain hologram, or something like this. This is the current view going on in neuroscience, which kind of blows your mind. It's very much like, if you're familiar with the movie The Matrix, it's very, very similar to that. The way neuroscience is now saying the way things appear to us is a hologram, as a hologram. And Buddhism has been saying this for centuries. Awareness refers to cognitively engaging with those appearances that occur to us. That's awareness. And the mere clarity and awareness, mere implies that all of this is occurring without a separate, independent me that is either controlling or observing this activity. In other words, there is no independent, self-existent me or I. That's an extremely important um, concept to understand when we're talking about the wisdom teachings of Nagarjuna. And I exists, and I does exist, but merely as an imputation based on a continuity of ever-changing moments of experiencing ever-changing things. So all we actually have, oh, here comes the rain. Here comes the rain. All we actually have ever is the present moment of now. It's a continually going on. So even if I were to say, if we were to say, oh, well, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up and going to get in the car and go to the store. Well, tomorrow morning actually never comes. It never comes because by the time it is tomorrow, it's now. So all of these ideas of past, present, future are mental projections that we are putting out there, which sort of help us to function. However, we have to realize that there is never any other time but the ever present now. And that's where we bring all of our habits, all of our past karmas come up into the ever present now. It's not like they're in the past. We carry them with us in the ever present now. So where we're actually going to make the change, where we can turn those habits around and to be something that is beneficial, is in the ever present now. It's not going to happen sometime in the future. Oh, I'll get to meditation, in a couple of years when I retire. It's not like that. We have to make that decision now, to make those changes now. So the continuity of this experiential awareness is without beginning or end, and which is very similar to how mass and energy are never created or destroyed. The way science talks about mass and energy. You just add consciousness to that mix. It's never created, it's never destroyed. It is beginningless, it is endless, it is continuous consciousness. Any questions about that? That's sort of straightforward.
There's something, so you have this continual sequence of awareness and knowing. So it's understandable because there's a consciousness that seems to be an individuated consciousness that has its own particular
That's true.
set of awareness and knowing, and it seems obvious that we would naturally, as a consciousness as such, we would naturally conceive of some kind of self-identity. I can see how it happens.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's you can see how this happened. They say that the whole of cyclic existence, this samsaric existence, which they say is an existence of continual suffering, really. We don't understand, we don't see it that way, but we understand the in your face suffering when something, you're sick or somebody dies, or we understand that kind of suffering. What we don't understand is the suffering of change. We want things to remain the same, and they never do. They don't. They're constantly changing, and this causes us suffering. One of the classic examples the monks give is you can sit in a very, very comfortable chair, but after a while, it becomes uncomfortable, and you have to get up and you have to move. So that is the suffering of change, and it pervades everything. And then there is what they call the all-pervasive suffering of cyclic existence, continually going through this process of birth, aging, sickness, death, cycling through again back into this samsaric existence. It has an all-pervasive suffering nature to it. So samsara is a continual kind of suffering, although here in the desire realm of samsara, we find things very attractive and are constantly grabbing after things out there that we think are going to make us happy, fulfill us. Yeah, like that. And what winds up happening is if we get it, it never actually satisfies. It satisfies for the moment, maybe, for a little bit, and then it doesn't satisfy anymore. It's like if you have this delicious meal, right? And you go, oh, this is so good. I love these mashed potatoes and gravy. I'm gonna have more and more and more of it. Well, you have more and more and more of it, and then you start feeling sick. So that's kind of the nature of all of what samsara is in this desire realm, where we will, yes, there's desire and we are attracted to certain things, all different kinds of things, but we're never actually satisfied. So we keep desiring, we keep on desiring, and that is a form of suffering, actually. So now we're going to go into um, three kinds of mind. There's a gross mind. This is all Buddhist psychology. There's a gross mind, a subtle mind, and a very subtle mind.
Can I just back up a second?
Yeah.
So what you're doing, I know you said this, but
This is not Nagarjuna right now.
it's not.
This is not Nagarjuna, although it ties in with everything Nagarjuna talks about.
What this is
the Buddha. What we're doing in every one of these sessions before we get into the Nagarjuna,
right.
we're studying the model, the Buddhist
That's
model
right.
of the mind,
That's right.
Buddhist psychology.
Thank you.
Okay.
was
So what we just covered was their consciousness. What consciousness is mere clarity and awareness.
And then again,
Mind and
I must
consciousness.
have been distracted when you said this, but so what you're doing is sort of reviewing what we've covered since
Yes.
what we had covered
Right,
before.
and I'm sure a lot of it's just sort of
Oh yeah.
there, but it needs to be reawakened.
Okay,
right?
thanks.
Okay. So mind and consciousness are synonymous. There's just clarity and awareness. And now we're going into there's a gross mind, there's a subtle mind, and there's a very subtle mind. In other words, there's a gross consciousness, there's a subtle consciousness, and there's a very subtle consciousness. So the word for mind in Sanskrit is chitta. Chitta, as in bodhicitta. Bodhi means awake and chitta means mind or consciousness, awakened consciousness. So when you have bodhicitta, you have this awakened consciousness that, oh wow, everything is interdependent, everything is interconnected. Therefore, I want to go all the way to enlightenment to help everything else that I am interconnected to be happy, to achieve enlightenment. That's bodhicitta. That's a mind, that's a consciousness. So consciousness or chitta has gross aspects that are intimately linked to the physical brain and subtle aspects that are not linked to the physical brain. Mind or consciousness functions at different levels of subtlety. So first is the gross mind, and what this is referring to are the six sense consciousnesses. So in Buddhism, we all know of the five. I know eye, ear, nose, tongue, and tactile senses. Tactile, yeah. But Buddhism adds mental. And it's so important because it's the mental consciousness that actually sort of makes sense of the eye, ear, and nose, tongue, and tactile consciousnesses. The mental consciousness puts it all together and tells us what it is we're experiencing or, thinking.
Well, it gives us the capacity to do
Gives the capacity to do that. Otherwise, it would just I don't know what it would be if you didn't have a mind or thoughts that went along with all these sensations. You'd just be like, I don't know what you'd be, some kind of blobby thing that's just eating, smelling. I don't know.
Very busy.
I really don't know, but
Well, it's the issue that the mind itself is at a subtle level, and we don't remember giving rise to the sense faculties and everything. In the
Oh yeah, well, it goes back to the whole hologram thing.
Right. So in a way,
Right.
your example is almost.
But this is how it's deconstructed in Buddhism. So there are six. There are six sense consciousnesses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, tactile, and mental. All right. So that's the gross level of consciousness. Now we go to the subtle level of consciousness. The subtle level of consciousness refers to the continuity of the mind stream. The continuity of our what is called a mind stream. Forget the Sanskrit word for that, but mind stream is how it translates. In the Chittamatra, also known as the Yogacara school of Buddhist tenets, that's called the mind-only school. Not everybody has studied these, but the mind-only school is very, very interesting. And it's not the highest level of tenets, but it's the second. It's close. And so,
Hey, I want to, you know me, I'm back in my
yeah,
criticize Christopher mode.
great.
Christopher. I would recommend that you use more subtle than high, because
What?
in
More
terms of
silent. Well,
the schools of tenets, because
they're all important.
yeah.
Yes, they're all
So
important.
I would say most subtle in the sense is perhaps I didn't make this up. I've heard others
Yeah.
use that terminology, because what it's saying is that it's not. It makes it by saying high, it can give rise to the idea that it's some
There's something wrong with the
cast away.
others.
Yeah.
Right.
Where what I think the benefit of using the term more subtle is that we understand that that's diving deeper into
Hmm.
the phenomenology of what it is we're talking about.
Right. It's similar to modern science. You have various levels, and we're getting into very, very subtle levels when you're talking about neuroscience and quantum physics. They're very, very subtle levels
Right.
of science.
Anyway,
So it's similar to that. When we're talking about these tenets, they start out and they're very important to study and understand, but they get more and more and more subtle to the highest level of subtlety, you might say, which is what Nagarjuna is talking about. So we the subtle mind. Remember, there are three minds we're talking about here: gross, subtle, and very subtle. So the subtle mind refers to the mind stream in the Chittamatra mind-only school of tenets in Buddhism. They call this. They refer to this as the foundation consciousness, which is or a storehouse consciousness, which is a very helpful metaphor. If you think of a storehouse of your mind, right, where you have all of these habitual propensities, these actions and reactions that you've had, all of these karmas that are very strong and habitual in you, you store right in your consciousness. However, the problem that lies with the Chittamatra mind-only school, when they talk about this foundation or storehouse consciousness or mind basis of all, they say that inherently exists. That has an independent self-existence of its own. That is what the person is. And the higher, more subtle level, the highest, most subtle level that Nagarjuna is talking about is saying, no, that's incorrect. You're not wrong to say there is a mind stream that carries all of these propensities, but to say that that is the actual, independent, self-existent person is a mistaken view, because there is nothing that is independent or self-existent, according to the most subtle view. So, what we're talking about then with this subtle mind, the subtle mind, is the mind stream that kind of stores or carries all of our habitual patterns and propensities,
in the
likes
same way a
or
river
dislikes.
stores water.
Carries it. It carries it. It carries it. Moment to moment to moment. All right, now, so is that kind of clear? Yeah. That the mind stream is a way of saying it. The third is the very subtle mind. And this is what we've been talking about this all throughout, even with all of Geshe Nima's teachings. We've talked about this very, very subtle mind. It's the most subtle mind. Okay, who can say what it is? We've been talking about it a lot. The most subtle mind. Yes, it's the clear light mind.
I'm trying to wait, but
the mind of clear light. When Geshe Nima was giving us these meditations to sort of get to the clarity of the mind, he's heading us in the direction of actually, at some point, having a direct experience of this clear light mind. This clear light mind is non-conceptual. It is simply awareness and clarity. It is awareness and clarity. It's what consciousness is. You boil it down to the awareness and clarity, and it's always with us, this clear light mind. And it's said that if we have a direct experiential realization of the empty nature of this clear light mind, we are freed from the suffering of cyclic existence. Yeah.
I thought we needed to have a realization of emptiness.
The empty nature of the clear light mind. Yeah. That's a realization of
Emptiness
emptiness.
itself. Well, anyway.
Mhm. Well, you get down to that. That's where it would take you. Yeah. Yeah. The emptiness of the clear light mind.
I'm waiting for the epiphany.
All right. So again, three levels of mind. Gross. What was the gross?
Yeah, sense consciousness.
Yeah. The sense consciousnesses. The subtle, like a river. The mind stream. Mind
Is that the mental continuum?
The mental continuum.
Okay.
Mhm. And the very subtle,
Yeah.
the clear light mind. Okay? Just sort of try and keep those. Sense consciousnesses, mind stream, clear light mind. That's the clear light mind's most subtle.
But the clear light mind also has within it the wisdom and compassion, and
All of that is carried. All of that is carried
Yeah.
with the in the mental continuum. If we develop those things,
yes.
we also can carry ignorance and lack of compassion. So it really depends on how we shape our mind. It's very important how we shape our mind and how we shape our mind moment to moment to moment. Okay, so just to understand, those are the three levels of mind. Now we're going to talk about primary minds and secondary minds. Primary minds and secondary minds, or main minds and mental factors. Main minds are the primary minds. Mental factors are the secondary minds. So we're on to a new thing. Main minds.
They call us mind and mental factors.
Mind and mental factors.
The mind and mental factors chapter.
Main mind, mental factors. Okay. Consciousness can be divided into primary minds or main minds and secondary minds or mental factors. All Buddhist systems of tenets, from Vaibhashika to Sautrantika to Chittamatra to the two levels of Madhyamika, to the two levels, they all accept that there are at least 6 types of primary minds or consciousnesses. So that goes back to what were the gross levels of consciousness. It's the same. The 6 primary minds or mental consciousnesses are eye, ear, nose, taste, tactile, and mental consciousness. So what primary minds do, those consciousnesses, what they do is they perceive what is objectively appearing to our conscious awareness. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, tactile sensations, and the thoughts that we have.
So primary minds are basically gross consciousness.
Yes. Primary minds
Just to tie it to the previous.
are the gross consciousnesses. And what they do is we have the way things appear to us. We think of ourselves as a subject and out there as an object. We think everything out there is a subject, and me, my stuff is all very subjective. That's the way it appears to us. So all of these primary minds sort of read for us all of the stuff that's out there. And then the thought, the thinking, just sort of decides what it all means to us based on what we're carrying in our mental continuum, our habits, our predispositions, our propensities, our likes, our dislikes. That's all carried in the mental continuum. And based on what appears out there to eye, ear, nose, taste, tongue, tactile, and then the thoughts, it's coming from our mental continuum telling us, this is what that means to you. You like it, you want to go towards it, or you're averted from it, or you feel neutral about it.
Would this then correspond to, in your last section, subtle consciousness?
It's connected, but the primary minds are not subtle. The primary minds are these gross consciousnesses.
No, I know.
Mhm.
But now when you start to analyze,
Right,
think about
but you're
those-
seeing how they're all. What we're going to do is finally get to an example of how it's all connected and how it works,
Yeah.
how it functions for us on a regular basis. The secondary minds, those are the primary minds, same as the gross. The secondary minds are mental factors that enable the subjective consciousness to establish a connection with the objective appearances it is aware of. So here's an example of what secondary minds are. They include mental factors such as attention. We bring our attention to something. We can't be aware of, the door if we're not looking at it, or bring our attention to the door or to dawn, or, to anybody who's in the room. We have to bring our attention to that thing. So that's a mental factor. Then there is discrimination. We discriminate what that is. If I'm looking at this thing, my discrimination says, this is a cup. I'm pulling cup out of my mental continuum, my storehouse. I know what this is based on my past experiences with it. And so I can say, that's a cup. I discriminate what that is. It's different than a piece of paper. It's a cup.
But you have to, right. So when you look at that body over there, you go, male body, Don.
Yeah, Don, Archie, right. You can do all of that because you've already established that within your own mental continuum.
And that's discrimination.
And so we can discriminate, like, that wall is yellow, that wall is
So in
blue.
other words, tell the difference between one thing and another.
Yeah, discriminate, yes.
Or a sound or a smell or
right.
a taste.
Exactly.
all
That's
that.
discrimination, okay? Then another mental factor. So we have attention. We bring our attention to something. We discriminate, what it is, what it isn't. Then we bring intention to that. Do we intend to do anything with that? What is our feeling towards that? For instance, with my cup, do I intend to pick it up, put it to my mouth, take a drink, or am I just going to leave it there? We always bring intention as a mental factor, whether we realize it or not. Just to get up and go to the bathroom, you have an intention.
Well, and wouldn't you say 99% of the time our intention is we're just ignoring the thing? I mean, that's.
You could do, yeah. Where I'm not going to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal with that. I intend to not look at that.
Well,
Right.
and that's sort of, we have to do that with the majority of the appearing objects in our life.
Right. We can't focus
Every
otherwise.
single
Right.
thing.
I think that's I think one of the problems in the modern age is our attention is so scattered. We're drawn to so many things all at once. We can't really properly focus. We can't properly focus our mind, and that's something to be aware of and to take steps to correct that within ourselves. Anyway. All right, another mental factor is mindfulness. Mindfulness. So you have mindfulness for me mostly comes in being aware of what is going to cause harm and what will not cause harm. For me, this is how I think of mindfulness. Is any action that I'm going to take in the first place, is it going to cause any trouble? Anything that I say, is it going to upset somebody? Any action I do, is it going to cause a problem in any way? This is how I think of mindfulness. Being aware of what you're doing. Not just, mindlessly going through any action, whether it's talking, whether it's driving the car, or watching TV. Oh my goodness, we mindlessly watch TV, don't we? We're not very mindful about that. Oh God, going on the internet, how mindful are we there, right? So mindfulness is it's very important. And it's very important on how we actually get along with one another. How mindful can we be? We always want to be beneficial, whether it's beneficial to ourselves or beneficial to others, or beneficial to the environment. All right, then there's concentration. There's another one called concentration, another mental factor, where we are then able to focus. We can actually focus in on the particular thing we are that has gotten our attention, that we've discriminated, that we're mindful about, and we can focus on it. We can concentrate on that thing. That's super important when we get into Buddhist meditation, to be able to concentrate and focus. And our minds are so scattered. We think we can multitask, and yet we actually can't. We can only do one thing at a time in a very fast sequence. And so we lose the plot. We lose our focus. So that's just an example of some of them. There are many mental factors, 50 something. But those are mental factors: attention, discrimination, intention, mindfulness, concentration, and so on.
Are those they have 5 ever-present mental factors?
Yeah, I think so. Those are the 5 ever present: attention, discrimination, intention, mindfulness, and concentration. I believe so. Yeah. Rubina has talked about those in this on the 5 fingers.
That's a thing. Actually, you can Google that.
Yeah.
And come up with
You
something.
can Google that. All right, now here's how a mental consciousness arises by way of the 5 aggregates. And you'll remember this because this is a story, and we always remember stories. So to understand the dynamics between these different forms of consciousness that we've just talked about, we can use a simple 5-part. Oh no, this isn't the story yet. This isn't the story, sorry. We can use a simple 5-part model known as the 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates, we've all heard of that. The 5 aggregates serve as a way to describe the sequential process through which a mental consciousness is generated. This is done in dependence upon the interaction of visual, auditory, smell, taste, and tactile consciousnesses with the mental consciousness. Khentrul Rinpoche, in his book, explains this in the following sequence. And he gives a slightly different sequence to the 5 aggregates. Usually we hear form, feeling, discrimination, mental, sometimes they call them compound.
Unassociated.
Non-associated compositional factors, and you go, oh, what does that mean? And then consciousness. He gives it in a slightly different wording, which is very clear, I think, and a slightly different order, which is also very clear. So just take that for what it is. So form is the first. They always begin with form. The process begins with appearing forms that arise within our sensory and mental consciousnesses, whatever that may be. Assuming our physical senses are functioning properly, we normally receive 6 distinct streams or forms of information through which a mental consciousness comes about. And they correspond to the 6 senses: 5 forms of physical sense information and 1 form of mental sense information. These forms create the objective focus of our conscious awareness. The process is instantaneous. For instance, when the Buddhist psychological model of the mind refers to the appearance of a mental form as an object of the mental awareness, what it's referring to is the present moment of mental sense consciousness becoming aware of a previous moment of mental sense consciousness. So it's a series of moments, and the mental consciousness, the present mental consciousness, could go, oh, I just had that thought. I just said that. I just saw that. The mental consciousness can sort of remember and carry it forward. So when a mental form appears to the mental awareness, it's referring to present mental awareness being conscious of a previous moment of mental awareness. Now we go to perception. The present mental consciousness can only ever be aware of one stream or form of information at any given time. So the present moment of mental consciousness can only be aware of one stream at any given time. So we are fooling ourselves if we think we are multitasking or taking everything in all at once. We know this for a fact. How easily, say I'm talking and your mind goes somewhere else. You don't hear a thing I said. You don't even know what we're talking about anymore because your mind has gone someplace else. I mentioned, internet and cell phones, and all of a sudden you're there on what you were just looking at, and you don't hear a word I say.
Right.
That's
It's raining cats and dogs.
It's raining cats and dogs, and so you're just going there, right? The mental consciousness can only be on one thing at any given moment. And a moment is, it's quicker than a finger
So you
snap.
do think you do on a subjective level think you're multitasking.
We think we're multitasking,
Yeah.
but we're actually going from one thing to another really, really quickly.
You know how you can be talking about, say, somebody, and that person you're talking about is busy over here, but they hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
What would that be?
Well, they hear their name. They hear you're talking about them, and they stop focusing on whatever they were doing, and they go, I hear my name, and they begin to listen. They could be doing this, but they're listening. Their mind is there listening to what's being said about them. Because, you're talking about me.
Well, self-grasping.
Exactly, yeah.
It's raining heavily, and I just was looking, and they're not getting it in Kerrville.
They're not getting the rain in
They're
Kyrgyz.
not getting this
Yeah,
particular.
That's good. Yeah.
However, they are getting it in Bernie.
Yeah.
Big time.
Okay, so while it seems to us that we're perceiving the sensation of things like sights, sounds, and thoughts all happening at the same time, this is actually an illusion created by our mental consciousness, jumping back and forth between these at a very rapid rate. When the mental consciousness becomes aware of a particular stream or form of appearance, that form leaves a mental impression on the mind. It leaves a mental impression on then the mind stream. The impression is known as perception. The main function of perception is to create, this is really important, is to create a mental image with which the mental consciousness is able to establish a connection. I'll go back to the cup example, because Rabina always uses the cup, and every teacher has a cup by this side. So if I did not know what this was, if I didn't know what a cup was, if I didn't have a mental image in my mind, like when I say cup, you're all going to have some kind of mental image. You're going to have either it's going to look like a glass, or if I say glass, it's probably a little different. If I say cup, you probably have like a little round thing with a handle, and you know that is for putting some kind of drink or liquid in, or perhaps something else. But normally it's like that.
I found the 5 ever present mental factors, which I'll tell you in a little bit.
Okay. You're with us, honey. You're with us.
Right. Well, we put that out there, and I felt a responsibility to research it.
Okay.
Finish your example.
So if one didn't know, like, I don't know, say you were from another planet or something, a completely different system, and your sense consciousness has picked up whatever your sense consciousness see with this. Of course, we all know we all are seeing different things based on the kind of being. But you see this, but you have no idea what it is. You may not even see it because you don't have a conception for what it is. Because we have a conception for what this is, then we know it's a cup, we know how it functions. Same goes for the couch, same goes for shirts, same goes for everything. If I say piano, all of a sudden in your head, you have a little picture of a piano. It's a mental image. And we constantly use these mental images and we superimpose them onto everything we look at, almost instantaneously. There's a ceramic on top of the piano. It's in a particular shape. You look at that and you're going to go, what does that match? Fish. That's a fish. That's a fish. Somebody else would not even know what that was. If they had no idea what a fish was, they would just go, I don't know what that is. So this is how our consciousness works. We have these mental images, you might even call them holograms, maybe, and we superimpose them onto everything we see. If we don't know what we're looking at, we don't have, somebody needs to tell us, somebody needs to educate us, because we don't have a mental image for it. We'll try and superimpose some other kind of mental image for it. My example I love to give is when the Japanese first saw the English arriving on the ocean in these big ships with masts. They looked at it and they thought, those are dragons. Those must be dragons in the sea, because they didn't have a mental image of what a ship was. You know, same thing has happened in other cultures too. I think this happened it happened when the Spaniards arrived in Mexico and the Aztecs first saw them. And what they saw was the Spaniards with all their armor on, and they were on horses. So the Aztecs had never seen a horse, and they had never seen armor, and they had never seen white people. And so they thought it was all one being. At first, that's what they thought. This is some kind of being, that has all these legs and, different heads and that kind of thing, because they didn't have a mental image for what that was. Once they had the mental image, they were fine. They knew exactly what it was. And the rest is history. So is that sort of clear how we put we project our mental image onto everything, and that's how we identify it. The main function of perception is to create a mental image with which the mental consciousness is able to establish a connection. It's really interesting. All right, so that's form. First was form, then perception, now feeling. We're talking about the aggregates, remember? Feeling. Based on the particular characteristics of this mental image, the mind will experience an initial reaction. This reaction is the most basic relationship that is drawn between the perceived object, the mental image that we overlay onto the object, and the perceiving subject, the awareness that we have of that image. It's really difficult for us to do this, but I'm looking now at this particular fish, this ceramic fish that's on the piano. And what I'm doing when I look at that is I'm overlaying a whole bunch of mental ideas and images onto that, so that it means a particular thing to me that for somebody else it would not be the same. It means so many things to me when I look at it. And we think it's just there from its own side, existing that way, exuding that. And it doesn't. It doesn't. We're the ones who are putting onto everything that appears to us, all the meaning that it has for us. This is huge. It's huge to understand this. It's really important to understand this. Otherwise, we're going to think what's out there actually exists the way it appears to us, and we have no part in how we respond to it. We have every part in how we respond to it and how we react to it. It's all coming from us. All right, so now we go. So we're talking about feeling. So this based on the particular characteristics of the mental image we have that we project onto something, the mind will experience an initial reaction. This reaction is the most basic relationship that is drawn between the perceived object, the mental image, and the perceiving subject, the awareness of that image. It is produced when the mental image triggers the various habitual propensities that are imprinted within the mind stream of consciousness and manifests then as a compulsion to either engage with what's appearing to us, or disengage from it. So it's all based on our habitual propensities that are in the mind stream. When we see something, it will be drawn to it because that's what is in our mind. Somebody else will have aversion for that thing. The same thing that we think is wonderful, somebody else will go, I don't like that at all. This explains why you can take the same thing, the same food, for instance, and somebody will go, oh my God, I think I'm going to throw up. I hate that. And somebody else will go, right? It's not the food. It's the mental continuum with its propensities and habits going, you're projecting it onto that particular thing. Either it's disgusting or it's wonderful. So there's oh God, we still have more to go. Mental formations. So once the initial connection has been made between subject and object, then a whole range of related cognitive patterns will arise. We can think of the continuum of consciousness as being like a big interconnected network. When one propensity is activated, then that causes other propensities to activate, like the ripples produced by dropping a rock in a pond. These propensities manifest as a wide range of conceptual designations that shape or condition the type of relationship that we are developing with the object. In a way, the mind is building up a story around the initial feeling that it gets from an object, that it projects onto the object. And then it fleshes out the details with all these conceptual overlays that we put on top of it. And you'll notice we do that. We do that. This is why, for instance, Kavita and I can think bossa nova is beautiful, gorgeous music, and the lyrics are so poetic and it's so wonderful. And somebody else will go, I don't get it at all. I don't see what you like about this. Give me some heavy metal, I'd say,
Right.
completely different set of propensities and habits, and then you build up a whole story around it. We'll do this with food.
Mm.
We'll do this with architecture. We'll do this with homes, houses, clothes,
Yeah.
designers, everything.
Teachers.
Right.
You know,
All have
yeah,
a
we'll build
teacher
it.
could be in the military for half their life and then come and teach third graders, and all of a sudden they're going to do this. They forget that, okay, these are children.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not-
everything.
It's that we do it with everything. We do it with everything. So this is why
Yeah.
sort of getting control over our mental continuum is so important. This is why the Buddhist practices are there. It's for that reason. And the reason is to be happy, to not suffer. That's the bottom line. The whole Buddhist teaching is all about, you've got a problem, there's suffering, there's a way to get out of this. But it's going to take some doing, because we have to look at how our mind is actually working. So the last of the aggregates, I'll repeat, we talked about form, perception, feeling, mental formations. The last is consciousness. The resulting moment of mental consciousness that arises from this process will be dependent on the type of story that was projected by the mental formations that each one of us have. If the story was based on deluded misconceptions, then the interpretation of the experience will conflict with reality. And again, what is reality? Reality is that everything is interdependent, interconnected, related. So if you take that in mind, and if you just have that alone in mind, everything is interdependent, interconnected. Therefore, in order to function well with everything, it only makes sense. Buddhism talks about ethics, but what is ethics other than you're doing a thing that's going to enhance interconnection. It's going to enhance interdependence. It's not going to fight it. It's not going to try and destroy the nature of reality by going, I don't like you. I hate you. I want to kill you. That has nothing to do with interdependence at all. That's trying to destroy the nature of reality. So we think ethics is, Lama Yeshe said, in the West, we think, ethics is some religious thing. He says, no, it's science. If you actually want a functioning, harmonious, interdependent system, then you have to take the actions of body, speech, and mind that will generate and enhance and support that. And that is what we call ethics. And we go, ethics. but it's much more scientific than we would think initially. So now we go to this. So if the interpretation that the mind has is in accordance with reality, then that will serve as a basis for happiness to arise. If it's not in accord with reality, that's going to cause suffering, which is why anger causes suffering, hatred causes suffering, grasping, attachment, not wanting to let go causes suffering. Because in an interdependent system, everything's connected. You can't grab something and say, this is mine and I'm not going to let it go. You have to have an open hand with it for it to function properly. So here's the example that you will remember. There's an example of the 5 aggregates in process. And this is something that both Khentrul Rinpoche and Venerable Robina always uses this example. You all will recognize it as soon as I start reading it. So imagine that you're sitting in a restaurant, you have just finished your meal, and you're waiting for your dessert, a nice big slice of delicious chocolate cake. Just get your mental image going to that one. Maybe you hate chocolate cake, but most people don't. So get a really good image of that chocolate cake going in your mind, all right? This is what you do. When we order whatever dessert, whatever thing it is we think we want, well, we have in our mind exactly what we're expecting, all right? And so, and it should look like the picture on the menu, which is why we got it in the first place. So the waiter approaches the table and sets down your dessert. And to your horror, there's a slice of carrot cake. It's carrot cake. You look up at the waiter indignantly and you go, where is my chocolate cake? So let's look at what's going on here in terms of the 5 aggregates and the whole process. So first we start with form. So what appears to you? Your visual consciousness experiences the appearance of a white circle, which is the plate. There's a white plate. Usually they're white. So there's a white circle. And you know what that is. You go, plate, immediately. You don't even have to think about it. Then there is a light brown, mottled looking triangular shape on that white circle. And you go, that's not chocolate cake. That's, ooh. Then on that particular triangular shape is covered in a thin layer of white stuff, which is the icing. And then that white stuff has a couple of orange and green blobs on top of it, which are the little carrot decorations. And you go, this is not chocolate cake. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I ordered.
Okay, what aggregate is that?
The aggregate, which aggregate?
The one where you're saying
It's the consciousness, which
this is not my.
yeah, this is not what I wanted.
Well,
And all of this process, you have these, you're projecting onto, in your, first of all, in your mind,
form.
you have the form.
Then you have.
All right, form.
I mean,
Then you
this
have
is an
perception.
example. I'm
Right.
trying
Then
to-
you have perception.
So then what's aspect of this little story is perception?
The is the impression,
The round plate with the white triangle?
that's part of it, but also is the idea that you have of chocolate cake. You have that already in your mental continuum. This is an idea you have. So you have, and then you see the little picture on the menu. You go, yep, matches my idea. Yummy. So then this other form shows up, and it's not what you expected. So all of a sudden, you're going through your mental continuum, going, what is this? What is this? What is this form?
Is this then perception? Is where you're sorting through, recognizing that it's carrot cake? I mean,
Jumping
if you're
fa-
trying
all
to
right.
make this an example, I'm trying to.
This is the mental perception leaves the mental impression on the mind. This impression is known as perception. The main function of perception is to create a mental image with which the mental consciousness is able to establish a connection. Okay?
We've already got that. What I'm saying is once the wrong cake comes in.
You're already
What's the mental?
okay. Then there's all right. So you've already done that. You've already gone, this is not chocolate cake, this is something else. You've searched for it.
And that's
Then you
perception.
have the next thing. Next thing is feeling. You have a feeling about this. The feeling is either going to be positive, negative, or neutral. In this case, it's negative. You see the brown mottled thing, you see the frosting, you see the little blobs of carrot. decorations and you go, this is not what I wanted, right? And so you've already generated a feeling that is one of disgust
negative.
and anger. It's negative, and so that's going to cause some problems because it's
Okay.
negative, right?
And that'd be under self-grasping.
It would be under grasping, sure, yeah. So you have, so then that's feeling. Then you have the mental formations, and you begin with these mental formations based on the feeling. Then a whole story.
Where did discrimination come in?
The discrimination are mental factors. They're not the five aggregates. I mean, discrimination, you could say, is perception,
Form, feeling.
and then perception. He's calling perception. Here's how he puts it.
Okay.
Form, perception. So he does perception or discrimination as the second one. Then he does feeling. Then he does what are called, instead of non-compositional factors, he calls them mental formations.
His perception would be what
We would call discrimination. Right. And then it ends in consciousness.
So that's the moment of recognition, perception. You recognize
Right, you recognize it.
So
then you have a feeling, positive, negative, neutral. Then you have mental formations where you sort of then go into your whole mental continuum and you pull out everything you hate about chocolate cake. I mean, carrot cake. And then you do this whole thing along with everything you hate about carrot cake in your mental formations. Then you add layers and layers. It says like how does he put it? It's saying like when you drop a rock in a pond, the propensities manifest as a wide range of conceptual designations that shape or condition the type of relationship we're having with the object. And the mind is building up a story around the initial, feeling and then fleshing out the details with conceptual overlays. So then you're going, I hate carrot cake. It's not just like this isn't what I wanted.
And that's mental formation.
These are mental formations. Then you start to build up a story. Why? What's wrong with the white person here? What are they, dumb? They didn't get my. So
mental formation.
These are mental formations. You start making up a whole story, and then you go, why does this always happen to me? How come these kinds of things happen to me? This is something. Why don't respect me?
So stepping there, you have form.
You have
perception.
Perception.
You recognize that it wasn't what you
You
have.
have feeling.
You
have a feeling about
aversion.
Mm-hmm.
And
then you have these mental formations.
Which is the story.
You get a story going. You start laying all these conceptions on top of it. Then the final one is consciousness. If the story that you've made up in your mental formations is based on deluded misconceptions, which this is, then the interpretation of the experience will conflict with reality. Perfectly fine piece of carrot cake. You could be as easily as happy with the carrot cake as with the chocolate cake.
What aspect of that is consciousness?
That is the distortion that arises. This distortion serves as the basis for suffering to arise in the form of unpleasant feelings. Likewise, if the interpretation is in accordance with reality, then that will serve as a basis for happiness to arise.
So distortion, the consciousness is a variable range of positive, negative, neutral, like feeling. How's consciousness different from feeling in the model of the five aggregates?
I don't know. I think maybe they happen like very, they're all connected.
You're teaching on this, and we're trying to.
So, how do you think it is then?
I don't know.
You have no idea? All right. It is a moment of mental consciousness. It's a moment of mental consciousness that arises based on the feeling. You have a feeling in your mental continuum that arises as, boom, a moment of mental consciousness, quick, like that. You're mentally conscious, and then you have.
Yeah, I'm sincerely trying to understand.
Right, these things are not happening in a slow fashion.
I'm feeling
they're happening.
Formations and consciousness are the three that I can see form and I can see perception. Form is form and perception's the recognition, and then I'm trying to understand.
What you have, all right. Let's go back. The mental formations are sort of like the imprints, the karmic imprints we have in our mental continuum.
Okay.
They're like the karmic imprints. And that's, like Chittamatra says, it's the storehouse. You're storing all these karmic
And you
imprints.
just leave that there.
You just leave that there. You pick up these karmic imprints because you saw the form and it wasn't matching the chocolate cake. So then you search your storehouse, like, what is this? And you go, and that's just matching, that's just going through the imprints. The imprints then come into consciousness.
Okay, thank you. So that's the difference between mental formations and
Right.
consciousness. Mental
The consciousness,
formations
the
are like
awareness.
the history, your big encyclopedia.
But we know how quickly this happens.
Yeah.
Rabina says quicker than Google.
Teach it and try and learn it, then we have
Yeah.
to parse it out.
Right. So that's when it finally comes out of your mouth that you're angry, that's the consciousness.
I mean, we've been studying, I mean, I'm sincerely asking this because in 20 years ago, Lama Pasang taught a session on the 5 aggregates, and I couldn't tell the difference between these 3, feeling.
It's quite good to parse it out in a story like this.
I know, but if you don't clarify what you're talking about in the story, it doesn't make it any
Well, it's good
clear.
that you're
We could get
clarifying.
engrossed in the story if we all did. We were all kind of going, yeah, I want a chocolate cake.
Right.
When we need
All
to
right,
be going, how is that?
All right, let's go. All right, let's go back over that then.
How's
Go
this
back over-
aligning with the aggregates?
Let's go back over it. So there's an
I like
appearing
that.
form. There's an appearing
What are
form.
you saying? I mean, we're more thinking about whether we like chocolate cake or carrot cake than understanding the aggregates.
Well,
We're going to remember the story, and we're not.
that's
gonna
why
remember.
that's why I said we'll all remember this story.
I know, but we're not going to remember the difference between discrimination and fear.
All right, let's go back over it again, okay? You wanted a particular thing.
I'm doing this to be helpful.
You know that particular thing.
Because
We'll just call it. We'll leave it with this example, but it can be anything.
okay,
We call it the chocolate cake. You want the chocolate cake. In your storehouse, you have an imprint of chocolate cake. So you know what it is. You bring it to your conscious awareness and you order it. This is what you were expecting, right? That's called form. Now, the form then comes back to you, a form again. You see another form that didn't match chocolate cake in your storehouse. So you go quicker than Google. You go, what's this form? You go, that's carrot cake. That's not chocolate cake. Right? Now, this happens all so quickly, but you have identified a new form based on your storehouse consciousness. It could be something you've never seen before, and you just go, what's that? It's not chocolate cake. But since you know what it is and you don't like what it is, then you have this perception. You have an impression where you're able to establish the connection. So this is so quick. So you have in your mental storehouse, you have what a carrot cake is. Then you have a perception of what carrot cake is, and you go, this is what I can make a connection. This is carrot cake. This is carrot cake. That matches what I have. That's the perception. That's carrot cake. Because you know what carrot cake is. It's in your storehouse.
I get it.
All right. Then you have the mental formations, your karmic imprints about carrot cake. I don't like carrot cake. This is not. I don't want carrot cake.
You're
Then
adding
all right.
Story to it.
But this is mental formations. You're pulling again from your storehouse. Your karmic imprints that are connected to all of this, and so you go, all right. This is the carrot cake. It's not what I wanted. So you go back to your mental formations and you go, this is not what I like. This is the karmic imprint of carrot cake.
Maybe the mental formations more have at a random, more
you could say they're neutral. However,
negative neutral.
However, they're there. They're there, and so you're picking up. You're picking up formations of like not being treated properly by others, all kinds of other things.
The translations that are often used for this particular aggregate is called karmas.
Yes, it's called karmas, and that's why it's good when you think about these karmic imprints.
Yeah, because you have a
Yeah.
I have a question. Karmic imprint. Could you say a karmic imprint is something that you may not be able to place in your experience, in your storehouse of experiences in this lifetime, but there is something that is repulsive about it and you can't identify why.
You carry it with you, right?
So it's brought into this life. Mm-hmm. Okay, I just wanted
that you keep that mental continuum
yes,
going.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a stream.
Yeah.
Okay. And you pull from that. So you pull all of these things, these related things to the fact that it's carrot cake, that you don't like carrot cake, and then you go, what's wrong with the waiter? How could they do this? How could they say this? They,
And what's that mental factor? When
That
you
all
start
comes to-
criticizing the waiter.
that's when you start criticizing. That's when it all comes
that
to your
called?
consciousness. It comes to consciousness.
Okay.
So when you're pulling from but it happens so quickly, it's almost as if,
Don't care that it's happening quickly. If we're gonna teach the 5 aggregates, then we need to be
Okay.
able to dissect it. I mean, Arthur,
All right.
what's the point?
do you need it dissected any more clearly?
But I'm just, this is worth doing.
Good. I thought so. When I looked at this, I thought, we need to do this again. Yeah. So is that then clear what we do? When we get, but we have to track it. We have to know before it happens that this is going to happen.
And I think
this is why we practice.
Yeah, and I think it helps too to be able to take that scenario and to maybe think of another scenario.
Exactly.
So how,
Exactly.
and I'm thinking with this, remember how when you're a kid and you're gonna pick your team out for your dodgeball team or whatever, and they give you don't get to pick
You don't
out-
get picked.
you get to pick the people that you don't want on your team,
Right.
and so you're like, oh.
I mean,
Right.
And then-
is it safe to, is it accurate to say that this is operational all
Constantly.
the time?
Yes,
Constantly.
It's not just
exactly.
it's moment by moment.
I don't want that dog. He has red hair.
No,
I don't
how
want
you're
that
sitting
dog,
on the
he has
couch.
white and black hair.
How you're sitting on the couch.
Yeah,
If you're deciding to scratch your nose or not.
exactly.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Yes.
So,
Constantly.
by the way, going back since we had made this, I had brought up another way that the Buddhist psychology talks about
Oh, the five.
mental the ever
Ever-present?
present mental factors.
Okay.
And I don't think I'm gonna. I almost feel like it would be confusing to bring them in. They are not what I was saying earlier, what
Okay.
we were wondering about, and it's embarrassing. And I'm claiming this, after all these years, this is why it's so important. You can tell the stories and talk about these things and think you know them, and then sure enough, you go and you search for it again. And you go, oh wait, that is different than what
Well, you brought it up, so
Big
yeah, I'm not going to listen because it'll just
it will
just
confuse
muddy
us.
the waters.
Okay, all right.
Let's just stick with 5 aggregates. I just want you all to know that there is another list called the ever present or always present mental factors, and sometime you might want to look into that. The reason that
Okay.
because some of the same words and the same aspects come.
There are aspects that are very similar. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
No, I mean it's some of the very same stuff, but it's different. It's a different, slightly
That's
different.
good.
You turn the diamond a slight little way and look at it and go, oh. Anyway.
Okay. So, are we somewhat clear on that process? I think we'll probably have to look at it again.
Yes.
But if you think, let's go back a little bit over it.
Yeah.
We project onto something a mental image that we pulled from our storehouse, right? And we have a feeling about that. I like chocolate cake. This is what I'm ordering.
That's too much story already.
So
It's positive, negative, neutral.
Positive, negative,
Because
neutral.
if you add the story, because you're already at consciousness. I'm just saying if you're
We're already at consciousness. We're always at consciousness, okay? Then this form, that's the first thing is form. Then there's perception.
you recognize a thing.
You
It's very
perceive what
neutral.
it is.
A thing.
A thing. Then there's a feeling triggered by the
Positive,
perception.
negative, neutral. A thing, positive, negative, neutral.
Then you go to your mental formations.
Searching your database.
Of why this is positive, negative, or neutral. For instance, had it been the chocolate cake, you would have gone to your database and gone, yeah, exactly what I wanted, so happy. But because it wasn't what you wanted, what you were expecting, then it creates, you go to your database goes, that's not what you want. And then it all happening in these mental formations are all these other related things that you don't like that go along with it.
Mental formations is also sometimes translated karmas. So it's
Karma.
through your big vast database of past experience
Karmas.
as an existing being.
There are karmic imprints that we carry.
You're searching your database,
Mhm.
and then it spurts out
Right.
as consciousness.
Right. I mean, the story can get so in a split second, you can be, angry at your mother because she never made you enough chocolate cake and made you carrot cake.
No, but
You just bring all of this stuff into it and then blast the waiter. No. What's important is you blast the waiter.
That's
the important
whole
part.
point of this.
Rather than simply going, no big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal. Thank you. I'll eat the carrot cake.
That
Great
was-
waiter. Give him a good tip. Yeah.
Yeah, and in essence, in practice, what
Make
we're
it
doing,
work with interdependence.
we're going, okay, this is my vast database of previous experiences with this thing, and I, as a practitioner, am not a slave to my past.
Exactly. What we have to do is
I mean,
we have to train our mind to not get so bent out of shape about particular things. We have to change the way we think, the way we speak, the way we behave. And as we do that, our mental continuum is going to change. The karmic imprints will be different. And we won't just be pulling from the same old worn out record, which is basically, poor me. Why me?
Yeah.
Me.
So
That doesn't fit with interdependence.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Or
It really helps to shed light on why people have such a hard time getting along in this world.
doesn't
Because
it?
all of this is so unconscious, we don't even think about it, and we think we're right and everybody's wrong, when it's really just a whole soup of everything.
That's so true. I mean, that's why this is such an important, to understand this model of the mind is so beneficial. And Kavita's point is exactly right. We can't just gloss over it. It's very easy to gloss over it, but we have to really analyze this.
I'm sort of thinking, this is, for me, for the first time, I'm thinking about, like we were just saying, but so as a practitioner, the reason I'm going to meditate and so forth is in this model of the 5 aggregates. I'm trying to improve that 4th aggregate database of
The mental continuum, yeah.
the mental continuum, or compositional factors, or what unassociated composition. It's a big undifferentiated. It's like a big database. I can't remember. I haven't been working in databases, but anybody who's worked with data, there's this SQL. It's like a big SQL database. None of it's identified. It's just data in your massive storehouse, and you're just trying to basically do a data, purge the useless data so that your storehouse is
Right. And the only way to purge it is to become aware of it.
it's through
Yeah.
your meditation
Yeah,
practice.
we have to become aware of it.
You're practicing.
And we have to,
And would the point be to be like more in that neutral plane as opposed to
equanimity.
initially,
positive versus what's
Yeah,
the other
if-
one? Negative?
yeah. If you can't, it would be better to be neutral than to be, angry or to be super happy. If you can't be super happy, then just get to a neutral place, if possible. And then from a neutral place, you can start changing your mind.
I imagine, like say bodhisattvas, actual bodhisattvas their database of mental formations is, all about altruism. So they have this vast storehouse of altruism
Right.
database.
Well, I think all of our perceptions of the cake, quote unquote, negative or positive, are based on misconception, are based on a exaggeration, one way or the other. So, yeah, I think getting to as neutral place as you can, and then thinking in that moment, this is empty. It is appearing to me, but it is not inherently existent. This boss yelling at me right now in my face is appearing, And there's causes for it. There's all these causes, but it's not inherently bad, inherently evil. It's anything, use whatever story or daily example you want. But this cake that I really hate is appearing, but it's not good or bad in and of itself. And that's, so I would say getting to a neutral place and then trying to apply wisdom and see it's dependent. I mean, that's where you really got to dig in, and that's hard. But
That's
all of it just sort of naturally diffuses at that point.
That is such an excellent point you just made, Brian. That is an excellent point. It is not good or bad in and of itself.
Exactly.
It's not. And so that we have to understand that and then use that to just diffuse this terrible. I mean, this certainly happens in the workplace all the time. These, like you said, the bad chocolate cake yelling at you, right? In and of itself, that it doesn't exist this way. And we are the ones, because of the way we project our mental image onto everything. We have big, bad, ugly boss, carrot cake guy. That's up to us to just sort of reel that in and go, no, that's just my projection. This thing does not exist inherently this way. I'm just projecting onto it. So
and the proof of that, the logical proof of that, is that there are a lot of people out there that see that and go, wow, that's awesome.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Music's always easy for me to understand, where there's music that I just can't stand. And I'm like, well, that's me, because there's lots of people out there that love that, and
that's
so
right.
it's not either of those. It's both, depending on what we're projecting.
So actually, Lee, then your point about getting to a neutral space is really, really important, because it's the neutral space that will go, neither of these, this really delicious thing or this horrible, ugly thing, neither of those exist from their own side that way, inherently. I'm the one who's making those projections. Let me bring it back, reel it back into, let's get neutral here and think about love, kindness, interdependence, and how to make everything function in a way that's beneficial and generates happiness.
Right.
And it certainly isn't going to be yelling at the waiter or your boss. It would always be some way of bringing it, calming the thing down and being agreeable and being supportive. And that, that just takes huge training.
Yeah.
I know. And I was just thinking about the very first time I attended a Buddhism teaching. It was when, remember Lama Tashi, who was the chant master?
Oh God, yeah.
And I remember I was listening,
Yes.
I remember I was sitting there listening, and I just asked this question, so I got so frustrated. Well, but how am I supposed to develop love and compassion? I mean, it's easy to say that, but how do you do that?
Right.
It's a training.
So it's all well and good to say, oh yeah, it'd
Right.
be wonderful if we all reacted this way and we're neutral. And so the whole point of practice and study.
This is why Buddhism has these two wings. The love and compassion, we all love that idea, but we can't just do it. We can't just do it. We have to have the wisdom. We have to understand, like just this is part of the wisdom teachings, the model of the mind, how it works. Once we understand what we're doing, the next time something comes up, we may remember an inkling of this and go, I'm supposed to get neutral, right? Why was that?
You get in the car, and rather than giving them a middle finger, just wave. Bless you.
Exactly.
Even be compassionate about, at least I have a cake.
Yeah, right.
And somebody had made that cake.
Somebody made the cake, yeah.
Maybe they're out of chocolate cake, so they brought the, carrot cake. At least I have a cake to eat.
And the next thing you know, you're going to be crying.
Exactly. So there's the wisdom and compassion, and your sufferings is all gone. You just accepted what's in front of you.
Yeah, right.
But given human nature, when you get around other people long enough that are negative, and everything is from a self-grasping point of view, like, I don't want to be around them. And after a while, you begin to, what's wrong with me?
Exactly.
Well,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's being able to deal with it in the moment before you flip, going in the wrong direction.
this is why we need some quiet time.
Yeah.
Because we will never be able to work on our mind if we're always busy around all of our friends all the time, doing.
Exactly.
We'll just continue doing the same thing and reacting in the same way and projecting the same kinds of things. We need to carve out some space for ourselves,
Yes.
some quiet time to actually study and contemplate and practice these things. This is how we will actually change, and we will change. We will do what we tell our mind to do.
Well, we all changed. When I was a little kid, I hated chocolate ice cream. I love chocolate ice cream.
You could go all the way to enlightenment.
I could do, it's like, as long as there's a Baskin Robbins around.
Okay, it's 12:30. We didn't even get to Nagarjuna, but that's fine.
Chocolate cake, I can become a-
If I can love chocolate cake, I can become a Buddha.
Exactly.
Hey, Christopher, can I
Yeah.
ask one real quick question?
Yeah.
On ethics, you gave what I thought was a really good definition. I just want to make sure that I wrote it down correctly. Ethics is basically actions of body, speech, and mind that enhances interdependence. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I would say that it supports it, encourages it, enhances it.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay, thanks.
I'm just, my simplistic way of thinking of ethics is non-harming.
Exactly. Non-harming.
Not harming.
And if you and be of benefit when you
Altruism
can.
is helping.
Be of benefit when you can.
That's altruism.
But start with the non-harming. I mean, Rabina, I love what she says. Just keep your lips zipped and your hands to yourself. Don't, no matter what's going on in your mind, don't let it out.
Thank you.
You know, until you can, find some quiet time and think about it, and then go to, so the practices that Buddhism gives on ethics are so great, and especially when you do combine it with the Vajrasattva practice, and over time you begin to move away from just don't harm, but move right into, wow, may I be of benefit? I really want to be of benefit. May I be supportive? May I be encouraging? You have to start just by thinking those thoughts, and when you think those thoughts over and over, eventually you're going to start to do it. You're going to change. But there has to be a consistent practice of thinking along these lines. Otherwise, it won't happen. It won't change. You won't change.
Geshe, we ready for our
Closing prayers, yeah.
So Geshe Nima suggested that we each day say a round of the mantra of the Buddha of compassion. And I'm going to just inject this thought that if you think of the mantra as Om Mani Padme Hum, from the muck and the mud of the pond, the muddy pond emerges the uncontaminated jewel of the lotus, if you would, say it like that. And so thinking about Tracy as she finds a life, whatever's happening, we want to picture that Tracy is emerging as this uncontaminated, uncontaminated jewel in the lotus. Similarly, in our community of this planet Earth that we know and love and exist on, every day and every moment, there's countless beings enduring all kinds of suffering, but there's also joy, and there's every human emotion. And as we say this round of mantras, this is what our closing prayers are going to be, is to think of, imagine all sentient beings, Tracy and all sentient beings, emerging from the confusion of their contaminated emotions and confused emotions and all these things we've been discussing, emerging as a beautiful, clean, pure emanation of their essence.
The lotus that they can,
Yeah.
like the jewel.
Okay, so that's what to visualize. Imagine yourself surrounded by countless beings, and you are, and this is what you're.
And a whole model.
Yeah, we'll just do it very quickly.
Okay.
It's I'm sure everybody knows the Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum.
Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi.
Don't forget to include yourself.
Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. 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 Pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi. Omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi omane pemi.
Omane pame, omane pame, omane pame, omane pame, omane pame.
Just remember with this Buddha of compassion, Shenrezig, this mantra, it is about immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy, and immeasurable equanimity, all geared toward all other sentient beings who we are connected to. And also, as Kavita said, for ourselves.
Well, I was thinking in the visualization, emerging, I like to picture every sentient being in every realm, emerging as these beautiful, uncontaminated.
It's great.
And so
Beautiful. Yeah. That's great.
It's hard to not smile when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody have any other comments or questions or statements of denial?
I deny.
Kavita, this is Brian. Can I just ask? I don't know. I've been getting calls from people the past couple of days about who are just learning about Tracy and telling them about the celebration. So I've encouraged them to register. I don't know if they have or not, but when you get a chance, can you send me? I know you sent one the other day, but can you send an updated list of the people who registered? If nobody else has registered since the other day, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out who's registering or not, or who's coming in.
Yeah, I will, Brian. I've been trying to. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
We'll do.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course.
Could you repeat the statement from the clairvoyant?
The statement from the clairvoyant about the Southern Continent.
Oh, here, let me get it. I'm gonna just open up the WhatsApp message from Geshe Nima so I can say it exactly as he said it. I'm not sure. Okay, here we're getting there. Sorry, I'm having to go back a bit. Okay. This was just a few days. This is Monday, June 23rd. There's good. This is just quoting Geshe Nima here. There is good news. The clairvoyant tantric guru guided us through his divination and recommended that we buy a white parasol statue in Tracy's name and that we should recite the White Parasol Sutra, as we've sent this out previously. He added that Tracy was a kind and compassionate human being, and she will take her next rebirth as a good human being in a fortunate and meritorious family, which is located in the south direction, the southern continent. I already talked with the statue maker, and I will send this, and then he goes into acquiring the statue and having it consecrated. But I think that's all he said. The clairvoyant tantric guru guided us through a divination to acquire the statue and so forth. So yeah, that's how he put it. I'm looking at subsequent messages to see if he said anything. No, he just keeps repeating the same thing, that the clairvoyant Rinpoche recommended this particular sutra that we had sent out.
The main thing is that he saw that she's had a fortunate rebirth, or is having a fortunate rebirth.
Okay, anyway, yeah, I hope that. All right.
Okay. And then
Thank you.
yeah, we could probably even, I don't know, we could even send that out, perhaps. Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody. Great
Thank you.
conversations. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Yes,